I'm Ryan J. Cox. I'm the founding editor and most everything else here at Chainsaw, a journal of the radical imagination. And I want to welcome you to our very first production vlog, where I spend a couple minutes each week talking about something related to the journal and kind of the journey that we're on. Yeah, this is an exciting moment for me because I'm going to try to lay out why I'm doing this, why this this project exists, and it's really the product of multiple threads, multiple critical threads kind of coming together. So the key reason that we're launching the journal is that it is the latest iteration of a project that I received a grant to fund 3 years ago. The initial project was done in I had some collaborators. We were going to work with students to produce a representation from within of Fort McMurray, and the original project was called the Social Landscapes of Fort McMurray. And we received a $5,000 research innovation grant from Keano College in order to fund that. The problem that we ran into that kind of has forced this project to evolve over time was the Fort McMurray wildfire. The wildfire really arrested our progress on that particular project. We had students going out and doing some work. We had done some we were talking with them. We were discussing what it was like to live in Fort McMurray, what the perception of Fort McMurray that was in the broader culture, how that reflected what they were doing, how it didn't reflect their day-to-day lives. And we weren't sure what that was going to come together as, but we were working towards producing something, an object. Additionally, I was doing some research on Fort McMurray. I was bringing my conversations with the students as research subjects into my kind of critical reflection on a number of things, including Kate Beaton's webcomic Ducks, and the fire disrupted that. Necessarily, we all left town, and a good number of amount of the research materials were stuck here in Fort McMurray, and my principal collaborator at the time, Enrico Lazway, he was really great at the time. His part of the project at that point appears to have been making sure everyone was safe and secure. But one of the kind of outcomes of the fires is that group we had established, including Enrico, we kind of were spread out for a while. So Keano College, where we were based, where I'm based, is a 2-year transfer college in terms of kind of our university level programming. So our students move on regularly. The fire accelerated that movement. We became kind of victims of our transients. So that version of the project couldn't go on. It was a very productive period, but it couldn't happen. It couldn't. So we ran past the term of the grant. We hadn't spent it. I assumed the money was gone. I was graciously informed that the money was still there, and I was expected to spend it. And so I kind of went back and I thought through the original spirit of what we were intending on doing. And I struck upon the idea that we could make a journal. We could make a zine. We could make a journal zine-like object that was inspired by this initial drive to represent the people who weren't necessarily being represented. To look at alternative modes of critical production. Now, some of the other things that kind of contributed to why we're doing this is it's hard to find time for me to do critical work. And I say that knowing I do produce critical work quite often, but to write full-length journal articles is difficult given kind of time constraints. And I was starting to find it really limiting. I had ideas that were fragmentary. I was perhaps the most influential kind of theoretical document to how I want to approach criticism or critical work is the Arcades Project by Walter Benjamin. And that's not an essay. And so I was trying to think about what else we could do, what else I could do, what other ways could we make space? What other ways could we make space in order to produce something interesting and critically valid? And I started thinking about things that were inspirational to me, things like the Arcades Project. I thought about the impact Tisch had on Canadian literature. Things like Gronk and Ganglia that B.P. Nicol produced, or Blue Ointment that Bill Bissett produced, that and their kind of canon of alternative texts that were incredibly influential to me both as a critic and as an artistic practitioner. Like, I'm a poet. I don't write as much as I'd like or do as much as I'd like, but I'm a poet and I still kind of see myself in that mold, and I'm driven towards that kind of production. And it isn't the same kind of thing. And so I started thinking about things like that, or the situationist publications or surrealist publications, and Document, Georges Bataille's surrealist journal is incredibly kind of important in my mind when I think about what I want this kind of thing to be. And I started putting that all together. And there's this other bit that kind of intersects with all that, and it's this kind of punk rock DIY ethos. The idea of alternative economies, doing it for yourself, making new spaces, making new places, doing what feels vital and exciting, that is incredibly important to me. Punk rock, to paraphrase the Minutemen, well, not paraphrase, to quote, punk rock changed my life. And that ethos, that drive to make it new, make it exciting, make it what I want, that's really important to me too. And so I've been doing things like this for a while. I've been making kind of little ephemeral objects, little zines for readings and broadsheets for readings, and it all came together. It all came together in the idea of what we're doing here. I want to do something that contributes critically and creatively, that provides a space where art can be criticism and criticism can be art, that represents people that might not be represented, hopefully, to critique social systems and social power, to make something beautiful and alive in a world where there's so much stuff that drags you down. I want to make something beautiful, and I want you to make something beautiful with me. Thank you for listening to this long and incredibly rambly bit of stuff. This is our call for contributors. You can email me at chainsawjri@gmail.com. Our social stuff is at chainsawzine. That's on both Twitter and Facebook. I will try to make this more sensible and maybe a little less of whatever this was. I don't know. Was this good? Thank you. Thank you.